Welcome to our question and answer section. We've asked for you guys to send in questions, and we've received some pretty interesting questions, and we'll attempt to provide biblically faithful responses to those questions. The first question we received says, what do we mean by the fear of God? What do we mean by the fear of God? I'm going to say that the fear of God speaks of reverence for God, and by that we mean a deep honor for God. It means to have a proper estimation of God, which includes the fact that as the uncaused source of all things, He is the ultimate authority. He has the right to be heard, to be believed, and to be obeyed. So at the heart of fear for God is the fact that we deeply honor Him, and it comes from an understanding that God is the sole ultimate authority. Is the sole ultimate authority, and the reason why it's the sole ultimate authority is because He is the uncaused source of all things. All things stem from God. He is the reality from which every other reality gets its own authority from. Hebrews, I'm going to take a passage from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 28 to 29. It says something about godly fear in some translations. Hebrews chapter 12, from 28 to 29 says, therefore let us be grateful for receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, and thus let us offer to God acceptable worship with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. In some translations, it puts that as with godly fear in the King James Version, with godly fear. But here it says with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. So how does this relate to the concept of godly fear or the fear of God? The word for godly fear, which like I said in this translation is translated as reverence and awe, properly means caution. It properly means caution. This again paints the idea of proper estimation, a proper estimation of God. The root word means to take hold well and to take hold cautiously. So at the heart of the fear of God is a proper estimation of who God is, a proper estimation, knowing God and having a right conception of Him. And this translates to us honoring God. This translates to us having a deep respect for God. So the fear of God is a proper estimation of God that includes deep honor, regard, wonder, and caution as well. Some people redefine the fear of God for believers to just mean to respect Him. While respect is included in the concept of the fear of God, we must be careful to realize that it is not limited to respect. It goes over and beyond respect. Like we said, it's honor, a proper estimation of who God is. A biblical fear of God for the believer includes understanding of how much God hates sin and the fact that God judges sin. This is something that is very important because there's just this casual notion of it's just to respect God. But a proper estimation and respect for God will involve an understanding of the fact that God hates sin and He judges sin. Even in the life of believers, we can see that in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 5 through to 11 about the discipline of believers. Even though that is done in love, God disciplining us is still a fearful thing. Let me just read Hebrews chapter 12 from verse 5 to 11. Hebrews chapter 12. It says, and have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by Him. For the Lord disciplines the one He loves and chastises every son whom He receives. It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? If you are left without discipline, in which all have participated, then you are illegitimate children and not sons. Besides this, we have had earthly fathers who disciplined us and we respected them. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they disciplined us for a short time as it seemed best to them, but it disciplines us for our good, that we may share in His holiness. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. So at the core of it, the fear of God is a deep respect, honor for God. But I also want to say that there is a sense that the fear of God includes dread for God. I know we always say no, the fear of God is not dread, it's just respect or reverence. But when you have a proper estimation of who God is, we have said that God is the uncaused source of all reality. He is in a different class of his own, and because of that, there is a dread that comes in knowing that we are dealing with a being who is the source of all things. It is not a dread that arises because we are enemies, but arises from the understanding that is in a class of its own, and so we are all answerable to him. So a correct understanding of the fear of God makes us even have that dread that we are dealing with a being that was not created, the being that created all things, and we are all answerable to him. And lastly, on this matter, I'm going to read Hebrews chapter 11 verse 7. And we see the story of a man of God, and the scripture described him that he had a fear for God. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 7. We know that the book of Hebrews 11 is usually called the Hall of Fame of Men of Faith. Hebrews 11 verse 7, and speaking of Noah, it says, by faith Noah, being warned by God concerning events as yet unseen, in reverent fear constructed an ark for the saving of his household. By this he condemned the world and became an heir of the righteousness that came by faith. And one thing I want you to see here is that it says that Noah feared God. And lastly, I'm going to say that the proof of the existence of the fear of God is obedience. Because when God spoke to Noah, he said it was because of that reverent fear that he had for God that he went ahead to build the ark. So the proof that we have godly fear, the fear of God, is that we obey him.